Well done, buddy. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Dom Famularo.
Oh, man.
Thank you so much for coming back to Drumeo. This is a second visit here. First time you came out, everyone just loved it so much. We had to get you out as soon as possible. It's actually been less than a year.
It's been amazing to return.
Yeah.
I'm back.
You're back. And I love it. And we got a really cool lesson planned for you, and we're also doing a ton of cool stuff inside of Drumeo with Dom. In fact, that song you just played, what was it called?
One for Jeff.
One for Jeff.
Written for Jeff Procaro, Zach Risby, a phenomenal guitar player and writer and arranger. Great, great player. We talked about the song to... Jeff Procaro was an incredible person, drummer, and musician. He's a great guy. And that song is just allowing me, when I play the song, just to be in the mindset of Jeff Procaro.
I love it.
I'm not trying to play like him. I can't.
No.
But I can be inspired by the Jeff Procaro soul that he had in every song he played. And that's kind of what that song embodies,
That's very cool. You can get that on your book, Arrival, correct?
Yes, that is Joe Brugamini's book, Arrival, that he put together, that I kind of assisted him with it. It's got tons of play-along songs on it.
Yeah.
And that's one of the songs on there,
Very cool. And if you're a Drumeo Edge member, we're going to be offering that song for you to download as well. We're also doing a whole course on how to use some of the most famous drum books. We did stick control last time you were out. We're doing some more. We're talking about his foot control book and all sorts of stuff inside of Drumeo. So if you like Dom, if you like what you see here, go to drumeo.com, sign up. And Dom, you're known as the global ambassador, drumming's global ambassador. Who gave you that term?
I am humbled by this, believe me. Ron Spagnardi, the creator of Modern Drummer magazine, we were talking one day, and he saw that I was traveling around the world, and he said, Dom, he says, really, I hear from so many people about how you're going to all these different countries, and you're spreading the gospel of drumming. I said, that's kind of what I see my purpose now, is just trying to go to get more drummers involved in playing, learn the techniques, and just share all this knowledge. He said, you're really like an ambassador for drumming. You really are drumming's global ambassador. He put that on one of the early interviews with me in the magazine, and it just kind of stuck. People just kind of, take that to my name, so I'm honored.
It's a fitting term. It's a fitting name to call yourself. And if you guys don't know much about Dom, where have you been? You living under a rock? Go to domfamularo.com to check out more about him, follow him, see what he's got. He's got great pad sticks that are great. Great for practice pad use. He's also got his new sticks for the kit. You just call them the kit stick. Something like that.
My pad sticks that are here. It's really for the practice pad. And then my kit sticks really have a different sense of style to the stick that ProMark has made for me, which is kind of a barrel tip that just kind of feels great. It's
great. We're going to try and get those in the Drumeo store, but until then, go to Dom Famularo to grab your pair. But we got the topic today is all about students. Now, this is one thing. This is why I'm glad you're here, because you're the guy to talk about this. This is 8 tips on how to become a better drum student. Now, we're all students of the drum, and everyone out there has had struggles from time to time. And if you want the best, if you want the most out of your practice time, if you want the most out of your drumming, you got to be a good student. And I think you, of all people, have had the most insight from the thousands of students and teachers that you've taught over the years. So I'm really looking forward to your insights here.
David, it's been amazing, because as I've been teaching now, I became a professional teacher at the age of 17. That's 48 years of teaching. I've never advertised. It's always been word of mouth. I've got a full schedule, over 2,500 students now that travel with me from 30 countries. And what's amazing about it is that they're all inspired to learn, and as they're inspired to learn, when they come to me, I realize that what my responsibility is to really kind of lift them to the next level.
I love it. So let's shed those insights to all the students watching here, and hopefully this changes the way you guys approach practicing and learning and setting up your practice time and finding a teacher and all that stuff. Let's start with the 4 ways of learning. You have a really cool graphic that you sent me, the 4 ways of learning. Now, we can't see it on here. Hopefully you have it memorized, but guys back there, can you show it on screen for us? This is called the 4 ways of learning, I believe, the hierarchy of learning.
Absolutely, and Dave, this is important, because this is, before we even begin the process as a student, we have to understand what our learning path will be.
Right.
And these 4 stages, it begins with unconscious incompetence. What that means is, you first approach and we'll use drumming as an example. I approach the instrument, I know nothing about drums, I grab the sticks, I start playing, and I start bashing, and I'm having fun, but I don't know what I'm doing, and it's just kind of noise. It's not organized noise, which is what we're trying to do. We're trying to organize these sounds. So in playing it, they're just kind of hitting it, so it's unconscious incompetence. What that means is they have no idea that they stink.
Okay. Yeah. Fair.
I'm not aware that I'm bad. Okay.
Right.
So at that point, then that student then hears someone else play, and they start to see, the groove is happening, and they start to see a fill happening, and they're crashing. And all of a sudden, they say, "Wow." Now that becomes conscious incompetence, where now I become aware of the fact that I stink.
That I stink. Right.
So now I know I'm not that good.
I would think about a lot of students are in that spot.
Well, what happens is they really realize that now that I understand that I have a lot to learn, so that's stage 2. And that then brings us to stage 3, which is conscious competence. And what that means now is now I'm aware and I'm working on what I need to work on to make me a better player.
Right.
So these stages are very important, and that conscious competence is where all great players, even today, the best of the best, always go back to that stage 3 because they want to keep on pushing themselves to try and learn new things. So that third stage is that conscious competence. We then work to the fourth and final stage, which is unconscious competence.
Right.
And that's where you've worked on these techniques so well, you've got them so well, the techniques, how you're playing, your groove, your pocket, everything is so well, you're not even thinking about how you're playing.
Right, yeah.
And that's always the stage we want to get to, and many of these great masters are there. But all these great masters, they're at that stage of unconscious competence, they always then step out of that and go back to conscious competence to say, what more can I learn?
How can I get better?
So that circle between stages 3 and 4, that's really where the journey is.
So for the students out there, what benefit does knowing this have? Why did you put this chart together in the first place?
Well, I did it because some students came in and thought they were a lot better than they were. So I had to kind of let them know that, listen, you don't know any rudiments, your hand technique is tense and you've got calluses on your hands, you're holding your shoulder up while you're playing, and there's so many challenges that you have, and you wonder why your groove is not working because there's so much tension in your playing, and you're squeezing, and just from your face I can see you're fighting it, that I asked them, are you having fun? And they go, well, not really. I said, well, I want you to have fun. And part of having the fun factor is you have to add to that knowledge. Now, wisdom is what we're looking for to attain that fourth level. Wisdom is a combination of knowledge and experience. Knowledge alone does not give wisdom. Knowledge is the information. Putting the information into action is what experience is.
Right.
So playing it and studying it and playing with different bands and playing to play-alongs, all that is a part of putting that knowledge into action, and that's where the wisdom of how to play the instrument starts coming in. And experience comes from good judgment. Bad judgment creates experience.
Right, okay.
So you have to make mistakes to learn from, to know how to make not that mistake again.
Brilliant.
In the process. That's kind of the cycle of it. So
I get it. So tip number 1 is just understand that, I guess. Understand what kind of steps that you're going to be going through, and maybe try to figure out where you're at in that journey, right?
Absolutely.
So number 2, this is a good tip. This is knowing the questions that are asked to each student. Now, this is something you do with all your students.
Every student, I take them on this journey. And listen, think of how great this is. We're here, Dave, in the middle of nowhere where we are right now, right?
Yeah.
We have this ability to reach this audience, all of you out there. This information is absolutely delivered to you so you can become better at what you do. This, for sure, Dave, is not about me. I've got enough challenges in my own life to worry about Dom Famularo. This is about the student. So these questions that I ask when a student comes in, I may ask him, the first one I might say, name me 5 of your favorite drummers. Alive or dead, who are the 5 drummers that you listen to that really inspire you? Now, someone might say, well, I like, Tommy Lee, I like Chad Smith, I like Tommy Aldridge, and they might be like heavy rockers. Once they give me that, I kind of know where they're at, of what influences them. Someone might come in and say, gee, I like Philly Joe Jones, Max Roach, Mel Lewis, and real, Roy Haynes, real jazz guys. Now I know where they're at. Someone might come in and say, well, I like Steve Gadd, Elvin Jones, Tony Williams, Dave Weckl, and Vinnie Colaiuta. Now I kind of see where they're at. So everyone's got a little different path that inspires them. And if those 5 drummers inspire you, no matter who they are, Bonzo, John Bonham, all these drummers, Porcaro, that's going to be the culmination of what you enjoy listening. That's kind of the direction of where you want to go. And that would be the beginning of the plan of how to get you there.
So for all those drummers who I don't even know what I want to learn. Well, who are your favorite drummers? Because naturally that might be where you're going to want to progress to.
Absolutely. And sometimes they'll say, well, I don't know if I have any favorite drummers. They'll ask me, well, who are your favorite bands? And then when they mention the bands, I know who the drummers are. I can kind of dictate that.
Right.
So it's kind of like, as a student, we have to be aware of what inspires us and what lights our fire to want to learn. And that's going to be how we're going to understand how we're going to get to that level.
What are some other questions that you would ask them?
Then I'll ask them, for example, I'll say, is anybody in your family musical? Now, this is an important question because they might say, well, yeah, my mom's a piano teacher, my dad played guitar, my older brother played bassoon, and I wanted to play drums. Well, now you have a family that has music in their household that really kind of attracts, positive art in the musical sounds in their family. They're listening to songs, they may have classical music on, they may have jazz, rock, so that's important. So when I ask that question and they say, no, my parents, they don't like music. They're both, science teachers, and my brothers are, into, sports. And that's it. So now I know that they're the only ones. So they're looking for their identity in maybe a family that does not promote music in the household.
Right.
So I've got to be aware of kind of how their household works to know how I can deliver them the information that they want.
So this is great for teachers and students, I think. For teachers watching this, these are questions that you should ask their students, but for students, you should be aware of this. So because it teaches what you should be learning yourself, too.
Exactly right.
How many lessons have you taken before? That's a question you asked?
That's an important one. How many lessons? Have you taken lessons before? If the answer is yes, how many lessons have you taken before? Yeah. And who was your teacher? There's a good chance, because of the years of me doing this, that I might know who that teacher is, no matter where in the world they are. And if you've studied with that person for a year, I kind of know what that person probably gave you. So that's very, very helpful to understand. So,
or what books you've gone through too.
Well, the next thing is, what books have you gone through? Sometimes someone says to me, well, I went through Stick Control. And I say, fantastic. Did you finish the book Stick Control? And they'll say, no, I just do the first 3 pages, 5, 6, and 7. And I'll say, well, that's like, reading the first chapter of the book War and Peace and thinking you know how it ends. It ain't going to happen that way. You got to really kind of read the book to feel how it was written. So with Stick Control and George Lawrence Stone, when he wrote the book, it's a calisthenic book to develop your muscles and exercises in mind and patterns. So when you get to page, the last page, page 46, you really have a higher level of skill and you have better stick control. So what books they went through and how they went through it.
Right. What about one of the questions you told me was name the last 2 to 3 live shows. How is that an important question?
Well, listen, if a student comes to me and says, man, I went to the Chili Peppers and saw Chad Smith play. It was unbelievable. They fired. I'm a huge Chili fan. I even have their logo, on my arm because I love the Chili Peppers. My son Dominic has the Chili Peppers logo on his arm because he loves the Chili Peppers.
You're kidding.
Absolutely. So that says to me, I can tell by that inspiration that they're going to know who that band is, and they're going to be inspired by it. So that allows me to see that if they've gone to hear live music, it might even be it might have been a hotel where there was a lounge band. It might have been a wedding you went to and you heard a live band. So I just want to kind of hear what they've been exposed to musically, to hear what they like and what they're aware of, to see where I can bring that student to that level. And
you also ask them to play for you, show them what.
Yeah, this is really important. This gets to the point where finally I say, okay, sit down and play for me. And I always tell them, this is not a test. I'm not here to judge your playing. I want you to play, just your favorite groove and your fill, and I want to see your fun on the kit. And I don't care if it's the corniest groove or the simple, or if you just want to play a little solo, anything, so I can then see where they're at. So the students should go to a teacher and make sure that the teacher hears them play. If a teacher does not hear you play, and they're going to start teaching you, well, I have a challenge with that. I have to get to know. I even ask students, if you have anything on YouTube, if there's any clips I can have, forward me the links to that performances. So you should, if you have a teacher, send links to that teacher ahead of time so they're aware of what you're about. So when they come into that lesson, that teacher's more aware. So as a student, we have to have that responsibility to take charge of our lessons.
Makes sense. And even if you're not even taking lessons, it's good to just know this stuff yourself, because it'll better align you with what you're looking for within lessons.
Absolutely.
Very cool. So tip number 1, obviously learn the 4 ways of learning, or understand the 4 ways of learning. Tip number 2, understand these questions that a teacher would ask you and be prepared for them. Tip number 3, What are your goals and what do you want to achieve? So isolating the goals, I guess.
This is important because, you know, if you want to play the drums, and listen, I'm still having fun doing this. Yeah. I'm still having fun doing this after 53 years of playing. This is still exciting, and I'm still learning. So I have to know, what am I trying to achieve? If someone says to me, listen, I want to just jam with some of my friends in the garage. We get together on Friday night. We just jam to a couple of tunes and we have fun. I just want to be able to jam and have fun. That's one set of criteria that I would use in how to teach them. If the student says, well, gee, I want to play, I'm in a 1980s cover band. Yeah. And I want to learn, okay, it's a whole different mentality. If someone says, I got a jazz trio, and we want to start working on some more intense tunes out of the real book, okay, it's a whole nother level. So I have to kind of know, and to qualify the student, what they want out of their drumming. Mm-hmm. If it's just, I just want to be able to play a good groove and play some fills, that's great too. But there has to be a plan on what you want to achieve. Now, if you say, I want to be like Chad Smith, I want to be like Marco Minimum.
Yeah. What do you do then?
Now you set that standard. If that standard is there, and that's great.
Yeah.
Now, if you want to be there, we have to then follow the path of the learning skills that those drummers achieved. So, for example, and both of them understand jazz. You know, when someone says to me, I want to learn John Bonham, I want to study John Bonham, I say, fantastic. We're going to listen to Buddy Rich and Joe Morello. And they say, no, Dom, you don't understand. I don't want to learn jazz, guys. I want to learn Bonham. I want to learn John Zeppelin, man. I want to rock out. Yeah. I'll say, oh, great. We're going to listen to Buddy Rich and Joe Morello. And they'll say, listen, Dom, I don't think you understand what I'm saying. I want to learn John Bonham. I don't want to learn this jazz stuff. Maybe you're getting too old. You don't understand what I'm saying. So then I say, boy, you're right. Maybe I am getting too old. Say it again slower. And they say, I want to learn the style of John Bonham. I said, okay, let me see if I get this right. You want to learn the style of John Bonham with Led Zeppelin and understand his playing? They go, yeah. I said, okay, now I get it. I'm sorry. I am getting old. I said, I'm terribly sorry. We're going to listen to Buddy Rich and Joe Morello.
Yeah.
Only because Bonham was a great jazz drummer.
Yeah.
So the only way to understand Bonham's sound is when you listen to Morello and how Morello played time and how Morello played with his hands, how Buddy Rich played certain patterns that Bonham played. When Bonham plays his double single pedal foot, you know, where he plays those patterns inside of a groove, that's Buddy. Buddy played triplets that way. So Bonham pulled that out, put that into his playing, so when you understand that, we go to a whole different place now of greatness in studying what these players did.
So how important is this step, knowing your goals? Because I got to tell you, from Drumeo side, working with the students we have, a lot of times that's the big disconnect. They don't know what their goals are. They're attracted to the flashiness of the drums, or maybe they just enjoy the drums in general, and they just say, I want to be a good drummer. How important is it to be specific with that?
Well, when you say you want to be a good drummer, I think that's what I have to qualify. I don't know what that means yet. So I got to find out, what do you mean by a good drummer? Do you want to just be able to play maybe 4 or 5 different rock beats and have a couple of fills? Or do you want to be able to play and be able to solo? Well, if you want to solo now, a solo is a combination of parts like language, where I have to understand these rudiments, because inside, when I understand these 40 rudiments, I'm going to put them together, and that's what's going to formulate my solo. So the better I understand the foundation of those rudiments, then I'm going to play some fills, and I'm going to listen to many artists and how they play their fills, because I might like that fill and this fill. If I put them together, that's the beginning of how maybe a solo might happen. Then I have to listen to many great soloists and see how they're playing. Then I have to trust my instinct and just play a solo in the expression of a solo, record that, video that, and watch back and look at it and say, that was fantastic, or that was terrible. Yeah. What do I need to change that?
Right.
And that's that self-analyzing of what that person wants the good to be.
Right. Makes sense. You know? So tip number 3 is understand your goals. Tip number 4, this is a good one. You said, I want you to expand on this. Understand what being a constant learner means. Why is that important for a student? And why is it that good students understand this?
Yeah, this is really important for all of you to really kind of take into perspective, because all of the great drummers that I have had the pleasure of meeting and performing with, some of the greats of the great, I've been humbled to be on the stage with many of these artists, they all are constant learners, which means no matter how great they are, they're still looking for new information and ideas. And why that's an important ingredient is because if you're constantly playing the same old stuff all the time, that's going to get stale really fast. That's going to get to a point where you start to say, you know, I'm just playing the same stuff. I play the same fill over and over. I want to get out of that rut. What that means is you've got to go back and change and accept some challenges in learning different things. Now, what I love about the word challenge is that inside the word challenge, the first 3 letters and the last 3 letters of challenge is change. So that means once I accept a new challenge, I have to accept change. And as a student, you have to be able to embrace change. This is such an important quality of being a good student. And change means I'm going to step out of my comfort zone and learn something that I didn't learn, because that might just unlock an idea that might come out in my playing that I didn't know existed, that all of a sudden I discovered.
Right.
And when you have that aha moment where you discover, wow, where did that come from? Whoa! There's an excitement in that if we keep on finding those aha moments, those moments of creativity, and you keep building on those, that's really where our student quality of growing and learning really increases.
That makes a lot of sense. I like that. First 3 letters, last 3 letters, and challenge and change. That's a good one. You're full of great quotes, Dom.
I find this stuff. That's what ages. I didn't get this grade for nothing.
No.
I earned this.
You earned that grade. Here's another good one. This is tip number 5, is understand what music means to you as a student. And I love this. Is it an art or is it a sport? And you said both are correct.
Both are correct. Listen, playing drums, if you look at this as a sport and you just want to develop speed and fast double bass chops and you want to play fast stuff all the time to impress people or bring yourself joy and happiness, that's great.
Yeah.
If that's what your love is, fantastic. I judge nobody when it comes to a student coming in. Whatever they want to learn, my job is to help you get there.
Yeah.
So the sport part of it is, you know, a lot of drummers are into this physical, you know, they work out, they play the drums. It's more sport than it is art. And that's fine. If it's an art about expression where you're not concerned about the speed or the double bass challenge, you just want to take the blend of all these symbols and sounds and create some kind of a texture, you know, kind of like what I did in One for Jeff and when I play. I'm looking for textures in there. So with that, every time I play that song, I play it a little differently because I discover different textures within that.
Right.
So the art part of it, art is about expression, and that's a really important part in what music is about. It's about expression. It's the depth of expression that brings this to a place of just, you know, euphoric joy. When you can feel something, you express that feeling, and then somebody else feels that.
Yeah.
Oh my God, this is so deep. It's so deep. So again, art and sport. Now, could you do both? Absolutely. There are many great drummers out there that do both very well. And that takes a real high level of discipline, and that's the key word that has to step into this whole picture.
Right. So why is it so important to identify that as a student?
Well, you want to find out what you want to achieve. Again, it goes back to the goals. You know, if again your favorite drummers are all these high technique drummers, you gotta qualify that that's what you want to go for, and that's what you're trying to achieve. So now you have to work on material and books and practice techniques to get you there. So now you got to put together a plan of, okay, wait a second, if I want to get to that level of where some of these great drummers are, you know, physically and the control they have on the kit, that takes real disciplined hard work and scheduling. It's kind of like going to the gym. And if I wanted to have like this Arnold Schwarzenegger type of body, you got to go to the gym and you got to put on a schedule of preps and reps, and you got to go and you got to work out, and you got to sweat and do your 5 hours and you're stretching, and you got to do that every day at 4 in the morning until 7 o'clock, and you got to put that time in consistently. That's intense. Now you can see, I have not done that. It's kind of quite obvious. Yeah, so that level of discipline for that. So if you want that, you got to put up with what the challenge is that takes.
Right.
But what that challenge will give you is change once you embrace it, and that's where the journey begins.
Beautiful. It all comes full circle, Dom.
Yeah.
6, 7, 8. We got 3 more chips, but before we get into that, I got to get you to play. I'm sitting down here. You're sitting behind the kit. I'm sure the students want to see you play too. Do you want to roll up one of those songs called "You've Come Back" there, Taylor? And this is a great song. Why don't you set this song up before you play it?
Yeah, this is this song. I kind of wrote the song because there were family members and people that have passed away in my life, family members and many great musicians that I met along that were just players that I played with that as you get older, they pass away, and great drummers that I have known very well that passed away. I mean, I had a chance of interviewing on the Sessions panel that I do, which is a YouTube channel that has all these wonderful interviews of all these great people. I had the chance of interviewing Ed Shaughnessy, who played for 30 years with the Johnny Carson Band, was just a phenomenal player and a great guy. I had a chance of interviewing Ndugu Chancellor, great drummer. We lost Ndugu. Hal Blaine we just lost. 90 years old, played all those songs in the 60s and 70s. And I had a chance of hanging with him many times and being with him and what he offered. I had the chance of interviewing Jabbo Starks and Clyde Stubblefield, the two drummers from James Brown. And that was an important interview because it was both of them together. And in the interview, you can see the absolute respect these two guys had for each other. And it was actually the last interview of both of them together. 2 weeks after the interview, Clyde had passed away, and a few months later, Jabbo had passed away. So when I think about these great drummers that I have had a chance to sit down with and hear and perform, and I knew Buddy very well, and Louis Bellson, and Morello, and Chapin, and Shelly Manne, and Mel Lewis. These guys were just great dedicated. Papa Joe Jones, he always smiled when he played. Every video you see of him, he's just so happy. So that influenced me. So I always said, these people have influenced me, and family members. My dear parents that are no longer with us, just were so supportive and supportive. So this song and the melody kind of allowed me to play a slower tune, and it allowed me to step into the memory of these people, that I can bring these people back into my life at the immediate sense of just my memory. And I've entitled this, You've Come Back.
I love it. I love it. We'll get to the last 3 points after this song. Hit it there, Dom.
Let's try it.
Yeah. done.
Crazy, right?
Well done. What a great song. It's an emotional song, hey?
Well, it is, because if you really... I love the art part of this here. I've had to study the sport end to keep myself in physical condition to play the art. Mm-hmm. And those techniques that we discussed in the last Drumeo session are an important part of me being able to play that song differently each time.
Right.
Now, I'm not playing it maybe like a session player would play it. If I was recording that for a pop tune, I'd play it differently. Mm-hmm. But in the expression of these sounds that I have with the colors of cymbals and toms, I'm going to feel this and try and step into the song differently each time.
Right.
And if I can open up my soul and allow these great memories of these great, wonderful people that are no longer with me to inspire me at that moment, that's how I want to die and be remembered for.
Absolutely.
That in each moment of that moment, I gave all I could give emotionally at that time. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it works great, sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah. Fair, yeah.
That's the chance you take.
But that's the chance you take.
Right.
And you played that differently. We filmed it for Drumeo as a play along. If you remember, we filmed it already before this, and it was different than what you played now. So I love that. But let's get into the last 3 tips here. These ones are the ones that I love the most. These are the ones that I think are going to directly help students watching this right here. This one is how to find a teacher that can deliver what you want. And we have a really cool image to show, a graphic to show. This is your lineage of drum teachers, I guess you can call it.
Absolutely. In the research of trying to find out what, when you kind of understand what you want to learn, this to me was my search. I'm not sure if you can put the image up.
They have it on
it's
screen
up there.
now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in this here, I kept on hearing the names of these 3 great drummers, Billy Gladstone, George Lawrence Stone, and Sanford Moeller.
Yes.
And in the East Coast, where I live in the New York area on Long Island, those names came out, and they were really very important names of techniques that they taught. Mm-hmm. Gladstone had finger technique, Stone had the wrist and this rebound free stroke technique, and Moeller, of course, with this whipping motion. And Moeller's motion wasn't necessarily a method, it was just a movement.
Right.
Just like the finger technique was a movement.
Right.
So when I had met Max Roach, he said, you got to learn those. It was 1971, I was 18 years old. Those 3 guys died in the mid-1960s. Mm-hmm. So the information I wanted, I was not able to get from them. So as a student, to seek out the teachers, they were not available.
Right.
So the next question I asked to Max Roach was, who were their best students? So as a student, that's where I wanted to go to get the information. So I say to all students, you have to seek out, and in the world we have today, it's so easy to get this information. Yeah. Listen, all of the drummers you have had in this room, I am humbled and honored to be in this room again. You guys have had the best of the best of the best. Yeah. I'm sitting in the same area where Garibaldi sat.
I know.
Garibaldi, if there's ever a drummer who was a constant student.
Yeah, no kidding.
David is, well, he's one of my heroes. I met David in 1976. I've known him for over 40 years. Wow. He has always inspired me all the times I've heard Tower of Power, all the times I've sat with him, we've done clinic tours together. And here's a guy that just wants to keep learning. Yeah. He's with the band. He calls it the million mile tour or whatever. These guys are just out constantly traveling
always
for 50 years.
Road, yeah.
And when you hear the band, if you go to hear David Garibaldi playing with the band Tower of Power, if you're in the audience and you are not moving somehow, if you're not tapping your foot or you're not moving or wiggling or dancing, you're dead.
Yeah, check your pulse. So
you're dead. You're over. Lay down, get the flowers. It is over, brother. That's it, right? Yeah. Garibaldi is just so, and when he plays, it's just so smart, and his groove and his funk feel, it's just so great. He's constantly learning. Mm-hmm. So that's an important quality. So to seek out it, he did just that. He seeked out the people in his area of who he could learn from.
Yeah, and that's the nice thing too, is nowadays it's not like back in the day where you just had your local cats and that's it. Yeah. You know, your local music store, who's your teachers? You know, let's hope they're good. Now there's sites like Drumeo, and there's others out there too. I'm not just pumping Drumeo stars, but there's ways you can connect. And even a lot of these guys like Bruce Becker, they do Skype lessons. You do Skype lessons.
And Bruce is doing some fantastic stuff. Bruce is on the West Coast, teaching many of the same techniques similar to what I'm doing on the East Coast. Yeah. And what Bruce is doing with his course here is tremendously helpful.
Drum techniques made easy, yeah.
You gotta go and check it out because you'll learn about movement. And listen, as a student, there's that constant learner again. Hear what Bruce has to say. Mm-hmm. The worst that's gonna happen, it's gonna help you out. Mm-hmm. the best that'll happen, it's going to help you out a lot.
Yeah.
So either way, you can't lose in the process. So the process of that lineage to me was, when I asked who were the best students, that's when Max Roach said to me, you got to go to Shelley Mann, who was the best student of Gladstone. You got to go to Joe Morello, the best student of George Lawrence Stone. Then you got to go to Jim Chapin. Well, fortunately, being in New York, that's where they were. And then eventually I studied with Morello first, then Chapin, then Shelley Mann moved to California. When he moved to California and was playing out there and doing all the TV shows and the movies and the recordings, in 1976, I put a trio together so we can go to California to play. Because I wanted to go study with Shelley Mann. Yeah. I got to get out to California. So I drove 3,000 miles across America to go, and with no job lined up with the band. We finally found a gig to play. We played out, and the musicians that were in the band, Frank Goldstein and Antonio Pedicano, these were two great players. Yeah. Frank went on to be a phenomenal arranger and player out in the Bay Area, San Francisco area, and Tony went on to play guitar and also eventually manage Frank Sinatra. For the last 20 years of his life.
Crazy.
So these guys went on to great things. And what's amazing, we had this band, we get out there, and I'm studying with Shelley Mann. And he was the right guy to have at that time because he opened up my mind. So I had to seek out. So when someone says, I got to drive an hour to get to, I drove 3,000 miles. Yeah. It took me a week and a half.
What I always get is drummer mentality, or just people's mentality is, there's so much content on the internet, it's all free. So drum lessons should be free. But if you're sacrificing your time by watching someone who may not be qualified or maybe just be some kid in his basement on YouTube, you don't know what you're getting. Spend a couple bucks, whoever it is, get a Skype lesson with Dom. Try out Drumeo, go and drive 3,000 miles. It's a small investment to something that you're going to be doing for the rest of your life.
And it was a different time then where you had to kind of drive out there. Nowadays, like you said, we have the access of the internet. Yes. We didn't have that. And how we learned years ago, again, we learned vinyl. I told you, put the vinyl down, you put the needle down. When you wanted to learn something, you had to keep moving the needle to the exact same place to learn. It was we had to really fight for our knowledge. Yeah. The younger generation, they don't fight for their knowledge. Yeah. It's literally at their fingertips. Yeah. So now you have more knowledge that can come to you. Technically, you should be able to move the art form even further.
So why is that not happening?
Well, it is happening to a certain degree. Okay. But what happens, I think, is the people want things to happen too easy. And the bottom line is all of this here is you gotta put the work into it. Listen, Garibaldi still practices tremendously. He puts time in, he studies the instrument. Vinnie Colaiuta is still studying the instrument. Gad Weckel is an avid student. Steve Smith is out there studying this craft. Every time I hear him play, he moves up a few notches of greatness. It's incredible. Yeah. Simon Phillips still learning. Cobham will be 75 this year. He's still a student of the art form. Yeah. How much more inspiring? Roy Haynes is 94 and still cranking away. And when I see him, he'll say, Dom, what do you got that's new? What can I learn?
No kidding.
And it's like, Roy, it's like, so to me, that's like in itself is inspiring. Yeah. So that process of putting the hard work in, you got to be able to put the hard work into it. So things will come easier technology-wise, but it all comes down to on that practice pad or on that drum set, you got to put the time into it and really kind of work hard to develop those skills.
So you know your goals, you understand constant learner, you know if you're in for the art or the sport, you know the 4 ways of learning, you've done all that. So here's the big one. How do you set a practice schedule? Tip number 7. How do you set a practice schedule that will deliver the results for all that stuff?
This is great. Now, what happens in a practice schedule, what I have to ask a student is I've got to say, okay, now you want to learn what kind of a practice schedule can you set up for the week? Yeah. So if you say, gee, I only have 30 minutes on Monday, Tuesday, I can probably get an hour in. Wednesday, I'm busy all day. I have no time to practice. I get home late. Thursday, I can probably put an hour and a half in. And Friday, good. So we have to sit down and map out what time can we steal for that time. Now when we have the schedule of the times that you have, now we got to say, okay, now let's figure out in Monday in those 30 minutes, what are we going to practice that in those 30 minutes can push your agenda forward? Well, maybe in those 30 minutes, it might just be the book stick control, where we do each number for 1 minute, so it's a 24-minute exercise. It might be just that, 24 minutes exactly of doing stick control, stretching your hands and developing the free stroke or whatever you're going to work on to get your technique to a looser place. And then the last 5 or 6 minutes, hop on the drum set and play. That's your time, go to bed.
Don't overthink it, hey?
Don't overthink it.
Because students, this is the biggest thing. I don't know what to practice. There's so much information thrown at them all the time. YouTube videos, Instagram people they follow, Facebook has videos, Drumeo has thousands of lessons. There's hundreds of books, hundreds of DVDs. What do people do? That's the biggest question that we get from our students.
Yeah.
How do you respond to something like that?
I say let's set the schedule. So with that now, let's find out what you want to do. So on Monday we do stick control for those 30 minutes. We have that. Then, Tuesday you have an hour. So now let's work on rock grooves, and there might be a book you're working on, maybe a book like Future Sounds, where you're going to play some of the. So for an hour you'll work on that book. Maybe what you'll do is you'll work on it for maybe 30 minutes, and then the other 30 minutes, put on some play-along tracks and just play. Wednesday you can't practice because you're busy all day.
Yeah.
Thursday comes in, you got an hour and a half. Now Thursday, we're going to kind of make up. Maybe we'll do stick control in the beginning to warm your hands up. Maybe we'll do some other exercises. Then we'll work on some drum soloing, and then we'll get back to some play-along tracks. So we'll squeeze that hour and a half. So listen, in the workings of now what we have with our phones, where you can put your calendar in there. Put your schedule in your calendar and literally map out what you want to. I promise you, as I teach with my students, if you put a schedule together for 1 month like this and map out what you want to do, keeping it fun-based, but we're going to map out a plan. I'm going to watch some of the Bruce Becker's lessons here. I'm going to go down some of the Garibaldi stuff. All the stuff here too. Within 1 month, give me 4 weeks. I can promise you, from the beginning of that month to the end of that month, you are going to be a much better drummer, and you are going to feel the results of that growth. That's going to be inspiring right there. I
love it. I love it. Yeah. And I fully agree with that. And I think you should all do that. For any of you out there that are struggling with, I don't know what to practice, or I can't set up my own practice schedule, just don't overthink it. Just do exactly what Dom said there. If you can get that time in, schedule it in,
And it might even be there, Dave. I mean, and I'll take all of you, if you want to, contact Dave, and he'll help you set up your schedule.
100%.
How's that, man? I'm serious.
100%. I do it all the time with Edge students.
All the Edge students, or whatever you have, let them find out what they want to achieve, and then put them on maybe even a 2-week plan. Every 2 weeks, call me back. Let me see how you're doing. How'd you stick to the plan? Did you stick to it? You didn't stick to it. Or you didn't stick to it. When you stick to it, that's when
I go to your house and I knock on your door. Well, we even have stuff in Drumeo where you can upload a video of yourself every week, and we can do follow-ups like you're doing great. There's no excuse except for your motivation. And this is the last tip I want to kind of segue to. At what level of discipline are you willing to commit yourself? How is this something that we can apply to students?
Well, this really is a great question. Discipline means self-control. With my 3 boys, I would tell them, I said, guys, listen, I want you to act with good behavior or clean your rooms. So you have to discipline yourself to clean that room. If you don't clean the room, then I'm going to have to discipline you. You don't want to go there.
No.
All right? You don't want to go there. So discipline has to come from within, self-control. So that's the first to understand that. That means you have to put this schedule together, and you have to follow the practice plan to make it work. So now we go back into motivating. What can motivate us? If you have a desire to play an instrument, specifically drums, we are a rare breed of people that we have this drumming desire to play, and drummers are a completely different beast. Different than guitar players, different than bass players or keyboard players. So we have this connection that's internal, just in our inherent desire to want to play drums. That puts you into a group of people that are really special. So now motivation comes from, I want to utilize that desire, that passion, to do something good with this. If you can play your instrument and play with the band and inspire someone listening to your music, or just play a solo or play along to a play-along track to your parents, and your parents find joy in you playing that music, that's the power of, you did it. You did it. You brought joy to your parents, to your family. You brought joy to your friends. You brought joy to your schoolmates in your school play. The feedback you're going to get from playing and your concentration and your discipline is going to come back tenfold. So when that passion starts to come to you, it's only going to cycle into, I want to improve my level of discipline. I want to now focus even more.
The snowball effect.
It's the snowball effect that is so positive and so energetic that when I have students and they're coming back to me and they're feeling the improvement, and we're on this positive wave of, as they're staying in this momentum, they're getting better. And they come back and all of a sudden their jazz is getting better. Because their jazz is getting better, they're going through the New Breed book and they're playing all this stuff. And now we're going to work on Marco Minimum's, extreme interdependence. Holy mackerel, put your seatbelt on. We're going down this book. But Marco's brilliance of what it was. So with all of this here, it's a matter of create the energy that is behind your passion.
Yeah.
And gosh, the magic begins at such a high level. Such a high level.
I love it. The quotes that you say, you emanate inspiration, man. I just can't help but just get pumped when I watch you talk. And I know we went long on this lesson, and I apologize for all who's like, oh man, really, an hour? But how do you stop this? This is such great information, and from the horse's mouth itself.
It's kind of funny. I've got an incredible supporting family that inspires me greatly.
Yeah.
And this team around me, my three boys are just great kids. Dominic, my oldest, and Jonathan and Maxwell, my youngest. These are three boys that are doing what they love doing. They're living their passion. Mm-hmm. And that was the key thing when I said it. I said, listen, no matter what you go to school for, whatever you got to live your passion. Mm-hmm. Whatever your passion. I don't care if you tell me you're into knitting. If you're into knitting, we're going to find the best knitting school and find a way of how you can make a living knitting.
Right.
If that's your thing. And my oldest son is into writing and TV production. My middle son is a lighting technician. He's working for CNBC. My youngest son, Maxwell, is going to the academy for NYPD. He loves that entire, criminal, forensic accounting mentality of going after following the money, so to speak. And within that, they're living their passion. That's inspired from the depth of my wife, who is just an absolute saint of a person, because she gets the whole bigger picture of the family and the kids and what I'm doing with what's happening with my traveling around the world. And she's incredibly supportive of it. Because of that support and that love, having a partner like that and the depth of someone that is willing to support this passion, this is a pretty serious. So to me, I feel like the obligation of my discipline has to come in showing them the love that I have for them, that I want to keep pushing myself, so hopefully maybe I can make even their lives better.
Well, you're telling me in the car today, when your sons are born, you were also reborn. And
I was reborn, yeah.
Your whole shift now is to increase my discipline so you can pass that off to them, and it's
absolutely brilliant. And as a student, where you are right now, and you might be, you might not even have, any relationship happening at all. You might be too young, or you might be involved in a relationship. Whatever that's around you, your intensity in learning this craft will affect everyone around you. Mm-hmm. It will lift their game. You can pay back a thanks to your parents by studying the craft and becoming better at it. And your parents will just see that you opened up their eyes to what it is. When my son Jonathan said he wanted to get into lighting, I know more about lighting than I've ever known before. Mm-hmm. But when he's talking about lighting, he's inspiring me just to, wow, when someone has passion, you can't help but get sucked into it when there's enthusiasm behind that passion.
Oh, yeah,
and
sure.
That's a big part of the journey here. So the part of the journey is to surround yourself with people that you can then inspire.
Yeah.
It might be an older brother, younger brother, sister, one of your siblings. Lift them up through your music. It's so much fun.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Dom. That's unreal. Do you have anything to add? We're getting close to the wire here, I guess you can say. Is there anything else you want to add to this? Tips for students. How do you become a better student? There's 8 tips that you just said, a ton of other things, but anything else to add?
Absolutely. And I'm going to speak to the cameras here. This is, as you hear my voice, I'm 65 now, and as I travel the world at an intense pace, I just was in Ohio with Thomas Lang in Ohio. I was just in Nottingham, England. And then I went to Ghent, Belgium. I'm only home for a week after this here, and I go to Italy for 5 days to perform. So I'm still traveling at this pace. There is an incredible world out there of potential, of greatness out there. And music is the power that can bring us to it. Understanding music and developing a higher musical sense, when you work towards improving yourself at anything, it is incredible what you can do and take your life to a place that you might not realize where it is right now. So if you think about a 2, 5, and a 10-year plan, where do I want to be with my instrument in 2 years? Do I want to be playing in a band? Do I want to maybe even start doing some teaching? You might want to think that, well, you're at a stage where maybe I wouldn't mind taking on a couple of students right now. Even though I'm still a student, I was a student at 17, beginning to teach. And I taught younger kids. So I at least was able to give them some guidance, even though I was still learning.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with that. This is one of the only industries that you can do that at.
I think so.
You know, that you can still be a student of the art form while you're teaching, as long as you're passing that information and knowledge. And there really is a magical result that comes out of music and the power of music. Again, when I played the song, You've Come Back, when I think about even players like, you know, Joe Morello, the great Joe Morello, on his deathbed, he still was willing to learn. You know, the Jim Chapin practicing the day before he passed away on a practice pad, and his hands sounded fantastic.
Yeah.
When I went to visit him, and his hands just sounded great. He was still learning and pushing himself, and I had flew home that night from Florida, and the next morning I got the call that Jim passed away. It was unbelievable to see the memory of these stories of these great people that have come before us. Sometimes when you want to get that inspiration to boost you, go back and learn a little bit more about some of these guys that came before us. It really is amazing to hear their story and what they've done and what you can draw from that to push yourself to that next level. And that really is where the journey begins.
Amazing. Dom, you never cease to impress me when you come out here. I love it. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. From a man who's taught thousands and thousands of students for 48 plus years.
Yeah, really.
I think you know what you're talking about here. So hopefully all you watching got something out of this. You changed the way maybe you approach being a student of the drums, or maybe you think you're not a student anymore and you're decided, okay, I'm a student again now. Because really, we're all students of the drum.
Yeah.
Go and follow Dom on his website, domfamularo.com. If you like what you saw here, come to Drumeo Edge. We do a lot more inside of Drumeo than we do on YouTube, and Dom's going to do a lot more with us for Edge students. So that's going to be real exciting. Any thank yous you want to give out to anyone?
Absolutely, man. You know, first of all, I want to thank all you guys, man. You know, David, you're so great. Jared, the whole team, you know, Ross on cameras and Taylor inside and Shar taking pictures, all these different people that are here. Your entire team here is just so welcoming and positive and giving of your time and your effort of what you're doing. And what you've done with this entire, you know, channel here is you've allowed people in the corner of the world to seek inspiration and knowledge, to connect all of us drummers together. And that's really what Drumeo does really great. No matter where I am around this world, the Drumeo name comes up, and there's always a positive sense about, I saw this, I'm working on this, this is great. So you really are lifting people to a higher level because of the effort that you're all doing. It's out there, and people are aware of it. So I thank you so much for that, for sure.
Thank you, yeah.
And this whole concept of having the 21st century at our fingertips, with technology the way it is, and with great art that's out there, all I say is I want you all to go out and try and see some of the great players that are still with us. And if you have to drive 4, 5, 6, 7 hours to hear them, go hear Steve Gadd. Go hear Garibaldi. Go hear Billy Cobham. Go hear, if you can, Roy Haynes. Go hear Jack DeJohnette. Go hear these great players that are out there. You know, Jimmy Cobb is still out there playing at 90. Go out there and seek these great musicians and find out why they're doing it, and ask them a question. I can guarantee 2 minutes in their presence will be a lifetime memory that will inspire you for the rest of your life.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Okay, we're going to wrap it up there. Thank you again, Dom. And hey, do you mind playing us that New York song? Is that okay?
Let's try that. Sure, let's do it.
We've got it loaded up here. I want you to play us one more tune. You're a fantastic player, and I see a lot of inspirational talks from you, but not enough playing, so I want to get you playing with you.
Let's do it.
Thanks, everyone, for watching. Go to drumeo.com, sign up, and domfamularo.com to check out more about Dom. I'm out of here. Bye-bye.
Thanks.